Hello, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to have Hayley Wood here today. She is an esthetician. She's also just completing nutrition school. So we're going to talk about how can you feed your beauty from within. What foods should we be eating and the importance of liver and gut health when you think about how your skin looks, how your hair looks, things like that. So welcome, and I'm just excited to have Hayley join us today to share everything she knows about how to have healthy skin from the inside out. And here she is. Hello, Hayley. Are you there? There she is.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm better now that I see you.
Oh, I feel the same way. Yeah. Are you having like a funny Mercury retrograde where like weird techie things are happening all around, or how are you
All
feeling?
all the weirdness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How
So
about
we'll
you?
we'll have fun together now on this. We'll see what happens.
We'll just
No,
see what happens.
it's been such a funny time. And I'm just so happy to see a familiar face in you and have this fun
Aw.
conversation.
Well, I'm so excited you're here. So I want everybody to know this is Hayley Wood of the Therapeutic Skin Coach. She
Hi.
is my dear friend and also my facialist when she was living here in Los Angeles. She's been an esthetician for 15 years and you decided to go to nutrition school to
Hmm.
just add to all. I mean, I could go through all of you. I know you've studied Reiki, you've studied all different modalities. So adding that to the wealth of knowledge that you are when it comes to all things skin. So I know we've talked a
Yeah.
lot with you about, the external, the topical things we can do to skin. But I wanted to have you on because I really want to talk about food now that you have
Yes.
a nutrition background. So I know, let's talk first, before we dive into food though, let's talk a little bit about gut health and
Hmm.
liver health. I know
Yes.
I've experienced this in healing myself. How do those two things play into our skin?
Well, yeah, I think most people on here, if they follow you or if they're familiar with, just a lot of like the generalized information with nutrition, I think that most people know that like our gut is our second brain. There's this huge connection to our nervous system. And our gut also has a lot of wonderful digestive, detoxifying, immune based responsibilities. And so, if it's disrupted due to our nervous system being off, which is so common nowadays, or our immune system being off, then it generally will start to kind of showcase signs. And for some people, it's, digestive signs. And then for some
Mm-hmm.
people, it's like through their skin as well,
Mm-hmm.
and so they might be experiencing some, chronic bloating or chronic digestive issues, or maybe the signal that they are getting is showing up in their skin in form of inflammation
Mm-hmm.
or just sluggish detoxification, which could come
Mm-hmm.
out as like excess oil or even conditions like eczema that could just
Mm-hmm.
be from a sluggishness of the liver as well. And the liver just has such a great responsibility to just filter out all of these different things,
Mm-hmm.
and regulate our blood sugar, pump out the right amount of glycogen in our bloodstream to make sure that we've got enough energy for the day. And it also has to filter out a lot of different like wastes that can come from our endocrine system. It really kind of filters out a lot of our hormones. So if
Mm-hmm.
there's some stagnation there, which can definitely happen from a gut imbalance standpoint or just from a chronic stress standpoint, that can
Mm-hmm.
also showcase in some skin conditions such as the eczema. Even conditions like rosacea can be correlated to liver and gut health. So to me, it's like we're basically just a web of different systems. And if you click
Mm-hmm.
on one thing, it probably shoots different symptoms to your body in all these different places. And it's just like, what area are you listening to the most? And I find that we're so connected to our skin because we like to take care of it. We've really, as a culture, created it to be such a form of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of us take care of our skin for vanity reasons. Like we just want it to feel young and youthful. So we might be getting those signs, but masking them through different conventional skincare practices and then just completely avoiding what could be going on internally. So
Right.
I like to fuse the two by just, looking at the skin as a guide, topically supporting it in the best way I can with great ingredients, but then also looking internally and see what is holding up that detoxification in the liver, what is causing blood sugar regulation, and then also how could we support digestion as a whole, which
Mm-hmm.
ultimately can help with better absorption in the gut, recovery of any inflammatory conditions. As you know, having a collagen company,
Yes.
how valuable it can be. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of, I feel like that kind of answers a little bit of your question. It's so vast. And as an esthetician, I really felt like I had a general understanding of what proper nutrition for skin and just for
Mm-hmm.
overall longevity looked like. But the way that I am now better understanding the correlation of how it all works, it makes me feel that much more capable of supporting my clients by just like deepening their understanding of like what foods specifically could help with their skin, and then also some of those internal systems like your detoxification and your digestion, like how can we support that just through food as well. So
Right.
it fuses beautifully together.
Right.
But it's not information that people generally know. Even I didn't really know, even though I felt very knowledgeable on just like the basis of nutrition, you
Right.
know?
Right. I'm curious what you think. So, I went through gut tape psoriasis 8 years ago. I had
Yeah.
psoriasis from my scalp to my ankles. And
Wow.
yeah, it
It's
went
awful.
hand,
I'm so
it,
sorry.
yeah, well, it was a message, it went hand
Yeah,
in hand with the Hashimoto's. Clearly,
absolutely.
my gut and my liver were very unhappy. Um, so, question: are there foods that we can remove that you think can help if there are skin issues, psoriasis, eczema, acne, things like that?
Yeah, there are some general groups that, if you're concerned at all about the potential health of your skin, but also your internal functions that may show
Mm-hmm.
up in the health of the skin, there are, some groups that are kind of just, pretty well known, like gluten, because that
Mm-hmm.
can be just like a difficult food to break down in the system in general.
Right.
And I feel like, especially if you might have some potential autoimmune dysfunction or
Mm-hmm.
irregularities, that tends to kind of like pique some of those receptors that just make you feel bad. So in
Mm-hmm.
general, I find that one, gluten, if you feel like you can try to eliminate that, it can be hard for some people, but once they do, it's almost an immediate relief in the skin. I'm somebody who
Mm-hmm.
struggles with eczema and also chronic illness through endometriosis. So I get some autoimmune type symptoms, but my
Mm-hmm.
eczema has been my whole life. And anytime I remove gluten, I immediately feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Dairy is another one, though I wouldn't say dairy is for everybody. I'm sure there are some really high quality dairies that actually have like a good vitamin profile in there, like some good vitamin D. Um, some people, they really benefit from that, but for most people, if you're having like chronic acne or things that are kind of causing like some blockages in the skin and some mucus
Right.
in the skin, I would say that, yeah, eliminate some of that dairy, or at least if you can't fully eliminate it, look to the source of your dairy and make sure that it's pasture raised and, if possible, organic as well. I just
Right.
like to find kind of the sourcing of stuff. And I would say refined sugars and, stimulant stuff can also kind of trigger an adrenal endocrine cascade that could lead to, some disruption in the skin,
Hmm.
like caffeine, chocolate, like sort of some sugars, alcohol too. But that I feel like most people, they feel a little bit more knowledgeable of eliminating that. But when it comes to the gluten and the dairy, I definitely find that those are the ones that people are really connected to emotionally.
Right.
And it's a little bit more difficult. That, and I guess coffee, but coffee is one of the ones that it just depends on the person and what their particular condition is and what they're really trying to achieve with their skin and their overall health.
Right.
And then I guess the last one, that I'm giving you a lot of options here, so I don't want anybody to go get overwhelmed, but this is just like a generalized list,
Hmm.
are just like some processed oils, the ones
Yeah.
that are just used in like fast food and all of that. Like that's one that whenever I eliminated certain processed oils, I immediately felt so much better. My gut
Yeah.
felt like I could start to recover.
Yeah.
I know you probably feel the same. And then after eliminating some of those, it's the introduction of like the collagen or something that's like bone brothy, and that has really
Yes.
helped for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot, and then sometimes there are some cases in which people need to get more into like the potential sensitivities with certain foods because it could actually be an allergy that they're dealing with. So that can be tested with the right sort of lab work, or you could do an even a more extensive, but hopefully like accompanied by a professional elimination diet. I would say
Right.
if you're navigating potential like regular foods, like non sensitizing foods regularly, and you're having a reaction to those, like go through that process of elimination with a professional because they could really test to see what's going on and
Yeah.
for that immune response.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely. I highly recommend that because you can go down sort of like guessing games and rabbit holes of
Yes.
trying to self-treat and self-diagnose. So definitely I do recommend that. So um let's talk about water. How much
Yeah.
water? How much water? There's so many different messages out there. So I'm curious how much water, and then I'm also curious, you're the one that introduced me to the Berkey filter.
Yes. Oh, I'm so
So
glad. Yeah, let's talk about it.
I think, and talking about how much water and water quality,
Mhm.
I think those are two important things to address. So tell us what you think.
Well, when it comes to how much water in a day, what's an interesting thing I've realized is when I generally ask this in a consultation setting, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that a lot of people account for their tea or their coffee or whatever liquids as their water intake. And I don't know why that's a common mistake when assigning that water intake number, but water as in like pure water,
Mm-hmm.
or even added water to like a smoothie and stuff. I'm sure we could probably count that, but just pure water, it kind of depends. There are some people who might have some kidney issues and their bladder is just working overtime, so they could be drinking a lot of water and it's just going right through them. So in that case, I find that if you want to feel properly hydrated just to begin
Right.
with, you have to source your water well. So I have used a Berkey water filter for the last several years because living in Los Angeles, it's kind of known that the water quality is just a little contaminated with different, contaminants, I guess, to
Mm-hmm.
then just purify the water.
Mm-hmm.
And the ingestion of that over time can create some potential endocrine disruptions or toxic disruptions. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily want that long term, especially anybody who like just moved to a place where the water quality is different than what you're used to. There's generally a phase where your hair quality feels different.
Yes.
Your your skin feels different. There's a lot of people who break out as soon as they get to LA because they're not used to that sort of water quality. But then there's other cities where it's much healthier. So it's very simple to source and look up online if you just
Yeah.
Google your address.
Oh yeah. Tell us, is it Environmental Working Group? Can you search water quality there?
Probably. I'm trying to think of the name. I should have looked it up before I got on here, but I can
Yeah.
always put it in a story after we're done with this or comment on this feed. But two, because we need to filter out some of those contaminants in order to get like
Hmm.
fresh water for our better absorption, what unfortunately gets stripped out of that is the minerals that we need, the
Yes.
essential minerals that we need. So
Yes.
then for me, it's just about like making sure that you get those essential minerals in there, and then that's what's going to help with your hydration levels to begin with. Whether
Yeah.
or not that completely changes the amount of water you need to take, it really depends on if you have like an overactive bladder, because I wouldn't want to tell you to drink too much water. You might just need to work on your vitamin K and your calcium
Right.
potential deficiencies, and then making sure that you've got a good amount of minerals in your daily intake of water and your food, because you can get a lot of hydration through food as well.
Yes.
So it just depends on your overall diet, what you're doing to potentially deplete you from hydration, and the source of your water and how you're intaking it. And that sounds all complicated. That sounds like a lot of steps.
Uh-huh.
But I think as long as you figure out, what you're doing, what your water quality is to begin with, like that's a
Right.
good place to start. And then if you don't know how to add in minerals, you can look up trace minerals and see what kind of foods that they're in, and see if there's a few foods you naturally eat that have a lot of that. And even I did a reel to help promote this live today. And actually, there's like a few different ingredients I added in there that are super mineral rich, that if you had that, and that in and of itself is like, it qualifies as a nice hydrating drink for you and for
Right.
your skin, your cells, everything. So make sure to check that little reel out.
Oh yes, I'm gonna ask you about that.
Yes.
Um, so I'm also curious about eating seasonally, right? Especially here in
Yeah.
LA, where we have access to, you can get raspberries in the middle of December. We just have access to all kinds of fruit all year round, whereas previously people used to eat seasonally. So I'm curious if you can fill us in at all about eating fruits and vegetables sort of according to what's really supposed to be harvested at this time.
Absolutely. So I totally get what you mean, because I'm Canadian and I grew up in the
Right,
Midwest. So I was used to the seasons, and you could kind of sense like, oh, there's going to be this kind of fruit out now, and there's
right,
going to be this kind of veggie out now, as things would change. But then once you move to bigger cities and you have access to potentially bigger like grocery markets, or you just have to go to kind of like a big superstore that's your only option for food,
right.
they just might have the same sort of fruits and vegetables year round. But if you shop from local farmers, or if anybody on here is a farmers market person like I am, or if you shop just at like smaller stores, they
Mhm.
tend to not have the widest variety of whatever's available. And the reason why that is because there's certain harvests that come out at certain times of year for
Right.
whatever produce it may be, and how the soil is handled. It can really sort of impact like the minerals and the nutrients that are found in those foods. And traditionally, because our ancestors, before the industrial revolution, the chemical revolution, everything sort of like packaged our foods and pumped them with like lots of awesome preservatives so we could have shelf stable items. What they
Mhm.
would do is they would eat these foods available upon season. And then that like sort of, we could kind of measure out that like that was actually really beneficial to like potential ailments that were going on at the time. So you would have like some more root vegetables during the winter, and it was a little bit more warming, things like that. And then
Mhm.
spring and summer, it's a little bit more cooling, a little bit lighter in
Yes.
the sense of what you're intaking. And then that helps you adjust with your own rhythm and your own cycle I really love to monitor the different cycles of our life and sort of flow with them, because otherwise I feel like we tend to get super stagnant, and then foods can become a little boring, and then we stop connecting to what it is that our bodies might be needing.
Right.
So like the best way to get started with that, if you have access, is to go to our farmers market and see what they have available seasonally and locally sourced. And if that's not available, I would definitely just at least look up would be seasonal according to the area that you're in, and then perhaps your local grocer has that availability. Yeah, it's all about asking questions, but the farmers markets, I think, just really are that much more of an educational experience, because you get to talk to the people who actually grow the food. And sometimes they can tell you how to make it if you're unfamiliar, and they can give you a
Mm-hmm.
recipe, and they can just inspire you to like try something a little different that you might not have liked. When I first so during the pandemic, I had to move out of LA, unfortunately. It's why I haven't seen Elaine in forever, and it's so sad.
I know.
But I moved to a much smaller town, and I went to the farmers market every Saturday, and it was so much different than what I'm used to, because if they didn't have something, they didn't have anything. So I had to acclimate how I was purchasing my produce and wanting to like feed myself, and I also make my dogs food. So I'm like, oh, how am I going to make this work? But really, there's variations of the things we
Yeah.
need all the time. They just come out at different times a year, and it's kind of fun to just go with what is available. And then it's also helping out the farmers who dedicate their lives to making sure that we've got some good food to eat, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, so I got really excited when I saw your reel with the
Yay!
skin loving recipe. So I will post this recipe so that everybody can see it. But you can also go over to Hayley at Therapeutic Skin Coach, and you can watch the reel. So when I saw the ingredients, I was like, oh, I know where she's going and why she chose all these ingredients, but I want you to explain. So I'll just run down the ingredients, and then you can tell us the why. So
Oh, yes.
it's got celery, ginger, dandelion greens, pineapple, avocado, and coconut water. I think I could pass the test of why you chose those ingredients, but why don't you explain to us why did you choose these to be our skin loving smoothie?
Well, first off, I there's a lot of variations that you could do with that formula I had. That's just what I happen to have around. And I was like, you know what? This is kind of what I feel I would need if my skin was expressing that it needed a little bit of like love and support and zhuzhing, right? From the inside. And honestly,
Yes.
after I drank it today, I felt so energized and I felt so bright. So it did kind of pass my own personal test, but there are other ingredients you could definitely use
Yeah.
and like kind of formulate another type of smoothie that are just as
Mm-hmm.
beneficial for the skin. But the reason why I put these particular ingredients together was because when I think about what the skin needs, and as we've kind of discussed so far in this conversation, is we need things to help with the gut, we need things to help hydrate, we need things to help with the liver. Essential fatty acids are also like the one of the most important parts of our cell structure,
Yeah.
so they can be really beneficial for recovery in the skin as well. And then obviously the collagen, super beneficial for, you know, helping kind of restructure anything from the amino acids. They'll help kind of communicate to the gut or to the skin or wherever it's getting fully absorbed, to heal up, you know what I mean? So it
Right.
helps with like the overall, if you've got any sort of like leakiness, it helps with the kind of the binding and making sure that it kind of seals up any of that potential debris that's like leaking out from the lining of your intestines, which sounds so scary, but it's like a lot more common than I expected. And so I find that it could be really beneficial for anybody.
Yeah.
But so the celery is just really rich in phytonutrients and minerals. And so sometimes when we're having like an absorption issue and like our skin's just not feeling really hydrated, it's feeling kind of dull, that could be a really good way to help revitalize and give you that boost of hydration. Then the pineapple is really great to help with the natural enzyme breakdown of food, but it's also like a beautiful ingredient if you have like, what is it, papain? That's the enzyme that is extracted
Mm-hmm.
from pineapple that's
Mm-hmm.
often used as a topical exfoliant.
Yes.
Ginger for microcirculation and just like overall good immune health, because
Yes.
our skin is a part of our immune system. It's really vital to have good, healthy immunity in order to have good, healthy skin. But two, if you're feeling a little dull, it can kind of create little microcirculations just to get some blood flow going. And then I love coconut water just because it's like a high source of magnesium, and a lot of people are very magnesium deficient these
Yes.
days.
Yes.
And what else is in it? Oh, and the dandelion avocado, so really good healthy omega-3s, really super healthy fats. A lot of people kind of went through that phase of being so fat phobic in the 80s and
Yes.
the 90s and even in the early 2000s. I feel like we're kind of starting to understand that like healthy fats are actually so essential to good heart health, good, brain health, everything. So I just find it to be a really important immune boosting
Yes.
ingredient as well. And just, it can be so beneficial for the health of the skin. And yeah, I think, was that it? Oh, the
Dandelion root.
dandelion root. Yes. Those are
Yes.
great for the liver. Those are
Yes.
so supportive to the liver. They help that natural detoxification. Now, I don't necessarily love to say that this is my detox smoothie, because you could be eating all the detoxification supporting foods in the world, but really you need to be in a state of parasympathetic, like happy, not stressed, in order for any of your systems to
Right.
work well. So that's why I just made like a joyful, happy smoothie and really enjoyed just taking it down and like making sure that I was enjoying the process of intaking that food, breathing through it, not drinking it too quickly, and just like allowing myself to fully take all of those nutrients. And so then in that case, it can be like a super naturally detoxifying, because it's so supportive to the functions of the liver and all of the other organs that just need to be in kind of a calm state in order to like heal up and do their work.
Right. Which I think you make a really important point that I think we're starting to hear more about. But so many of us live a stressful life. We're in that
Yeah.
constant fight or flight. And for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us, I include myself in this, it's very hard to get into that rest and digest. So tell
Yeah.
us, do you have any favorite like mindset things that you like to do so that you can bring your body into that rest and digest, which I think is ultimately reflected in how you look and how you feel?
100% it is. And that's kind of the biggest lesson for me on a personal note too, is I knew a lot about nutrition, I knew a lot about skin, but the connection of how all of these, that you could be doing everything right.
Yeah.
You could be eating perfectly, you could be doing your skincare perfectly, you could be quote unquote living like, the holistic, healthy person life. But if you're not coping with your stressors, and sometimes these stressors are environmental, sometimes
Yeah.
they're internal, they're like a physical stressor, or sometimes they're emotional. And there's a lot of layers that we often don't take the full time to explore to see like what the
Right.
causes are. But usually it's a mix of everything, right? There's a lot that we're kind of holding on to every day. So in terms of how to kind of incorporate some of those grounding moments in my day, is I teach this on Therapeutic Skin Coach, is just utilizing your grooming, your skincare, all those
Uh-huh.
steps you got to take to make yourself feel good in your bathroom, in your morning and your evening routine. You create a practice of mindfulness within that. And to me, it's like I just set up a little vibe in my bathroom, and I just take my time and I breathe, and I'm conscious with that practice, and I'm
Yeah.
connecting with like, when I do feel a little dry today, or, I'm feeling a lot of tension in my jaw, I wonder what I'm going, like what I'm doing. And, you know, you could be getting disrupted by other factors in your life during that time. But for the most part, we at least have like that 1 minute to ourselves. And sometimes that 1 minute is all we really need. But in
Right.
terms of being able to apply that besides just our grooming, which is what my skincare business has been like teaching for a long time, is you also kind of need to do that with your food. You know what I mean? If you could sit with yourself, put your phone down, take a couple of
Yes.
deep breaths, like deep, like diaphragmatic breaths, and just like calming yourself down, because the digestive process is such a north to south process. It starts in the brain, and if you're already kind of in a stress state, you might not be recognizing when you're full, you might be eating very quickly, or you're just not like connecting to the savory aspect of what your needs are. So you could just be emotionally eating or stress eating or doing anything that like is just disconnecting you from the
Right.
possibility of reconnecting and grounding. So chewing slowly, taking a
Yep.
couple of deep breaths. I even like, I love to cook, and I love like just, you know, I'm not saying like I do Reiki over my food, but I love to give it like some good energy and just be like, I'm so excited to eat you, and I know you're going to feed me well, and I'm so like grateful that I got to like make this meal. And that's not me trying to like shove toxic positivity on foods that may not do well with me. That's me just,
Right.
you know, trying to create some moments within my day that make sense for me to get grounded so that I can get into that state of like just rest, so that all of our systems can work better. Because otherwise it's just like alarms ringing of, hey, you don't feel good and we want to work for you, but you're kind of overusing some of your resources. And
Right.
I'm the queen of burnout. I don't think I ever recognized what true like restorative work was until recently. And I've like evaluated it for years, and I've like looked in depth into what it could mean for me and mean for
Right.
people that I work with. But it's been such an interesting practice to like dismantle the belief system that like we have to go crash and then
Right.
refuel and then go. It's like, well, we could just coast through and not wear ourselves out in the process, or at least be
Yeah.
try to, because there are so many elements we can't control. What can we control that we can create a mindful awareness and practice of, and then just having grace with ourselves when we lose that sort of alignment, because that's sure to happen a
Yeah.
lot, you know.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, I have loved this conversation. I'm excited to try the
Yay.
smoothie.
Oh, I
Um,
hope you love it.
yeah, I use dandelion greens quite a bit, and I think it's really helped my liver. So,
It's so good. It's
yeah.
so good.
And even if, as we get into colder weather, if you're here in North America, you can also put it in like a soup or something. I do that,
Yes.
when, if you get tired of smoothies. So use
Soup
that.
season.
Yeah, use that dandelion green to love on your liver. So,
So
um,
good.
so good. So, Hayley, not only do you know skin amazingly well, you constantly are educating me, but now you're adding nutrition to your services as well. So, tell us, how can we find you? How can we work with you? Tell us what you're offering.
So right now I'm finishing up my certification, and I'm so excited because it literally like in a month I'm going to be done with school. And as much as I've loved diving into this topic, it's just learning a totally new thing, and diving into 10 months of study is just, it's overwhelming. But I'm so excited that I did it. And it's like funny because all of life's obstacles like showed up as soon as I started to do this. But this school really kind of helped me like get through it. And I
Uh-huh.
learned so much, and I genuinely feel so much better. I was struggling chronically for a long time, and there's still some things I got to work on, but I'm just like so much more patient and loving with myself about it with this newfound knowledge. So I just know, you know, my future self is already like holding out for me. But In terms of consultations, like I do offer skin health consultations right now, and probably within the next month, so mid-November is when I'm going to launch my nutritional therapy practitioner consultations. And those basically, we can definitely fuse it with the skin health if that is somebody's priority. But if you just want to solely work on nutrition, that's going to be a consultation where we just kind of dive into your health history. It's incredible. Actually, I use this wonderful platform that helps kind of facilitate a questionnaire that like gives you so much wonderful insight into somebody's health. And then we have a consultation, and then we do a follow-up session where I provide you with customized recommendations from like meal prepping, like navigating how to clean out your pantry, if that's something that you're needing support with, identifying what are some potential nutrients you might be lacking in and how to incorporate those through whole foods. And then from there, we do a follow-up consultation just to see how you're doing. And then we can kind of create a more custom plan based off of your needs from there. But it's a super valuable insight. And I find that there's so many different people that could benefit from just a little bit of like that nutrition education and overhaul of their health. It can be super vulnerable to talk about with a person via Zoom or via whatever online platform. But I just want to say, like, I'm a person who has had like, disordered eating habits in the past. I've dealt with chronic illness. I've dealt with bloating and inflammation and acne and eczema and all those things. So like I have a lot of compassion for people when they're in that existing state and when they're just looking to heal. So I'm just there to create space and create a supportive environment that we can just start where you are. You don't need to know a lot. You just have to have an openness to like work together, and then we'll make you feel hopefully how you've been, you're meant to feel and how you've been wanting to feel. So that's my intention. But I'll make sure I launch that, and I'll make it like super clear when I fully am ready to do that. But in the next month, so mid-November.
That's awesome. People can start to prepare for 2022.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I know, I didn't even think about that. The great timing. Like by the time I'm sure people will get excited to work with me, it'll be the start of the year. And like that could be such a toxic time in terms of like what's being thrown out on social media in terms of what's healthy, what's whatever. And if you're just looking to kind of create a path for yourself that is actually curated to your bio individual needs, like that's what I'm here for.
Exactly. No gimmicks, you're going to create a program that people can, I always say, do something that you can take with you and carry with you and implement that just becomes part of your life. None of these crash diets or weird diets it's not realistic.
Exactly. And it is what it is. It's like we all learn from something. I tell people who, I primarily do more holistic skincare. So I use more plant-based, organic, like super well-sourced products. But, if you're starting with like over-the-counter stuff from your local drugstore, that's a fine place to start too. We don't need to just jump straight to the fancy, luxurious, like expensive stuff. There's something in the middle for everybody, and I can meet anybody with where they're at. And then that's usually how you create those more sustainable habits that just become a part of your lifestyle, instead of creating this unattainable like diet that you can't follow. I've like fallen off of all of those my whole life. This is much easier, and it feels better, and then I just enjoy cooking more because of this type of enlightenment and curation to my personal needs that I've learned through this program. So I'm so excited to share it with people, and they could just email me or DM me if they're interested, and then I'll just contact them and get them set up so we can get started as soon as possible.
Awesome. Well, I cannot recommend you highly enough, Hayley. You are just a gem. I adore you. I miss you.
I miss
I,
you.
I haven't had a facial in a very long time since I
Next time
saw
I'm in
you.
LA, you'll be one of the first for
I
sure.
know. I know. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining
Thank
me. And
you.
everyone, go follow Hayley over on Therapeutic Skin Coach. And
Awesome.
I know you'll update everyone when you are launching your nutrition coaching.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been so
Of
great to see you
course.
and talk to you.
Yes. Thank you, Hayley. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.